right, today I'm going to give you a walk-through, kind of walk-around tour of what you can see behind me there, the Cat. This is a 1937 model Caterpillar 22 tracked tractor. It has a 4-cylinder gasoline engine and weighs about 6,000, maybe 6,200 pounds. Roughly 22 horsepower. This particular one has a couple of neat features about it. Neat feature one is more easily demonstrated over here on this side. There were two versions of these tractors. There was a wide version and a narrow version, and this one is the wide version. You can tell that because the track extends out from under the fender by about half. On the narrow version, the track will be tucked up under the fender much more, and there will only be an inch or two sticking out. Another neat feature about this tractor is the track itself. You can see there's one ridge here, two ridges here, one ridge on the next one, and so on. It goes that way all the way around. And the track pads actually have these square holes, or kind of rectangular holes, cut out in the middle. These are what are known as snow tracks. It keeps snow and ice from building up in the track and pushing the track off the sprocket. It does have snow tracks, which they're not really rare, but they are a little less common, you could say. And then we'll come around to the back, and this one has a PTO installed. Which, again, not super rare, but not all of them came with that. A couple of other neat features to this tractor, in addition to the snow pads and the PTO, here on the front of the radiator, it's a little bent up, but these arms and that, this little rod here at the bottom, originally this rod would have been straight, but it would have a canvas roll on it, and you would pull the canvas up and clip it in these slots during the winter to block off part of the radiator to encourage this thing to warm up faster and be able to get the operating temperature when it's extremely cold. Another little neat thing is going to be hard to see down in here, but I will try to get to it. Let me move the rocker arm out of the way. This cover that I've got the push rods in goes on the head, which is over here. So I'll drop the head on my foot. But this cover goes over the head and covers the spark plugs. It mounts on these. There should be one more stud there, but there's not. It's gone. But it mounts on those, would be those 4 studs, and covers the spark plugs. And those were commonly lost or discarded because they made service, you know, it's just one more thing you got to do to service this tractor. Because in the 30s and 40s and 50s, you know, changing spark plugs was a regular maintenance item. I found this thing sitting basically on the side of a mountain and didn't know much about it. It took a couple of weeks, but I tracked down the owner, got in touch with him, and agreed to purchase this tractor. Now, when I agreed to purchase this tractor, I knew obviously it wouldn't run, but I didn't know anything else about it. I took the truck and the trailer over there, and I winched this thing up on the trailer and hauled it home. Once I got it home, I rolled it off in the yard, and there it sat for probably a month. I pulled the spark plugs out, poured Marvel Mystery Oil and some Croil and some PB Blaster and some other stuff in the cylinders, and that was where I started to get a little concerned, because cylinders 1 through 3, the front ones here, 1, 2, and 3, the plugs came out nice and easy. Cylinder 4, I actually had to use penetrating oil just to get the spark plug out. So that's where I started to get a little worried. But I let it sit for probably 6 weeks or so before I had time to get it pushed up here in the garage and really start working on it. And when I pulled the valve cover off, that's where I had my I got my first glimpse of how bad this thing really is, or really was going to be. Because as you can see here, these valves are rusted open on cylinders 3 and 4. Cylinders 1 and 2 are closed up, but cylinders 3 and 4, these valves are rusted open. And not only can you see it there, but around here, you can really see it. See that gap there? And then on the exhaust ports in this manifold, they are all packed absolutely solid with rust flakes. Because the head had 2 valves that rusted open, we got some rust in the cylinders. Now you can see these cylinders are in jugs. These jugs are identical right down to the impression there. That impression is actually on this second one too. So these cylinders are not front or rear specific, but they do have to be replaced as a unit if you're going to replace them. Now the front two, because the valves were closed, you can see these are really not bad at all. There's a little bit of a lip right here that I can just barely catch with my finger on cylinder number 1. But these, I genuinely believe they will hone up and they'll be okay. The same thing goes for cylinder 3 here. It is rougher than 1 and 2, but it's still not that bad. I think it would hone up and I think it would be usable. But what condemns this entire rear jug assembly is cylinder 4. As you can see, the rust in cylinder 4 is really very, very heavy on the sidewalls. The engine will definitely have to come apart, and to do that you need to pull the oil pan. Now the oil pan sits on top of this leaf spring that kind of provides the front support for the whole tractor, which means you either have to pull the complete engine off or jack the engine up, remove that leaf spring, and then let it hang, and you can pull the oil pan off and work underneath it. To actually get this thing going, we're looking at needing a head, at least 1 jug, probably 1, maybe 2 new pistons, rings, gaskets, head gaskets, the rest of the engine gaskets. The radiator is going to need to go in and be checked out. It's pretty well full of rust, so that's going to have to be hot tanked and cleaned. The magneto will need to be rebuilt. The carburetor will need to be rebuilt. The rockers and everything up here is pretty well okay. The seat, I got the frame and the metal springs for the seat, but it's going to need a seat and a back and some armrest. The auxiliary fuel tank here is missing the cap and birds have been nesting in it. The regular fuel tank here, the cap is broken, but even it's dark, but it's going to need, at the very least, a good cleaning and sealing to lock down all the rust in there. And then I do have this little deal here. I don't know what it fits, but it's not this tractor. The radiator has a shaft that comes through it at the bottom. You can see right there, that shaft has a pin. That pin engages the teeth on the front of the pulley, on the front of the crankshaft, and you start this tractor by putting the hand crank on the shaft on the front of the radiator and cranking this thing over by hand. So I need a hand crank. I don't have one. So talking a little more about the condition of this thing, you'll see in the video where I was loading it, it would not roll. And in order to get it winched up on the trailer, I had to take a strap and pull these 2 steering clutches back, which releases the track. And obviously you will use your independent brakes. There's a left brake and a right brake. You'll use your brakes to assist in turning. Now, when you pull both of them back, that disengages everything and the whole machine freewheels, which is what I had to do to get this thing up on the trailer because it would not roll at all. I got it freed up and it did roll in the garage without having to tie the shifters back. These tracks are about at the end of their lifespan. You can see the track, this front adjuster runs on this piece of channel. And right here, the channel ends that far past the adjuster. You can see the sprocket comes around and grabs the bushing. Well, every time it grabs this bushing, there's a good shot. It wears the side of this bushing. And to replace that, you have to press the pins out, press the bushings out, and press new ones in. So if a person were to adjust these up the way they are supposed to be, I believe you would end up with the adjuster right at the end of the channel iron or pretty close, and it would be fine. Like I said, you wouldn't want to take it and start trying to run it 10 or 12 hours a day that way, but for collector purposes, you know, running around a little bit every once in a while, going to a tractor show or a plow day or something, it would be just fine. It has a slower ground speed and it's more expensive per hour to operate than a rubber tired tractor just because you're wearing track pads, you're wearing pins, you're wearing bushings, in addition to, you know, the bearings in the rear end. On a rubber tire tractor, all you have are bearings in the rear end and a rubber tire. I'm trying to get positioned here where you can see the tractor, but you're not blinded by the light coming in that window. So the question now is, what's going to happen to this thing? Well, I pulled it off the side of the mountain because if I hadn't brought it down, it would have sat there and rusted away into nothing for, you know, who knows how long. Might have been there forever. But I did pull it off the mountain. I got it here. It is much, much worse than I anticipated, but it is not out of the realm of being repairable. The engine could be replaced with a good used engine, but by doing that, you're going to damage the value of the tractor because the serial number, in addition to being on this brass tag here, it's stamped into the block underneath that brass tag. And the same thing is true back here on the transmission housing. And if those numbers don't match, that is a very, very serious hit to the value of the tractor. To get this thing really running and functional without painting it, we're in the ballpark of probably $2,000. With a good used head and rebuilding the engine and that kind of thing, because parts for these engines are not inexpensive. They are available, but they're not necessarily cheap. Just a gasket kit for this thing is going to be a few $100s all by itself. The head's going to be a few $100, the jug's going to be a few $100, pistons are going to be a few $100. You know, we're right in the neighborhood of $1,000 before we even address the magneto and the carburetor. The exhaust manifold has what's known as a heat box on it. That heat box is cracked and broken. You're looking at probably another $400 or $500 there. Standing here, I'm just going to sit on the track. So repairing this thing is not going to be the easy task I was hoping for. I was really hoping I could pour some oil in the cylinders, get the engine freed up, and get it turning over. I will not scrap this tractor. Enough classic American iron has already been chopped up and turned into Chinese Coke cans. I'm not gonna do that to any more of it. That's part of why I pulled it off the hill. Is a machine like this, with the history that this thing has and the history that, you know, kind of all these old tractors have, I hate to see them just rust away into nothing. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know you've seen the cat in the background of several of my other videos. I just wanted to give you a quick walk around and a quick overview before this project goes any further, which it's about to do here in the next few weeks. There are some big updates coming for this tractor, so be sure you subscribe to get those. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, if you found it entertaining, maybe even educational. There's a chance. I've certainly learned a lot messing with this thing, but either way, be sure to hit subscribe to get the latest stuff, and thanks for watching.